Friday nights during the fall. Six-man fans gather to watch a sermon of grit and determination be delivered by 6 men, 10 minutes at a time, 4 quarters a night. Here you'll find the quarterback, is also the linebacker, and the kicker, where iron sharpens iron, where hard work pays off, and where 6 are won. Now for your host of 6 is 1, Coach Goldman.
Welcome back to 6 is 1. Today I have Coach Stredic on the phone with me. He's with Bulvarde Bracken. Brother, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Coach. How about yourself?
Oh, I cannot complain one bit. Well, now, just for backstory for those folks, Coach Stredic and I met a few years back when we had the awesome pleasure of letting him kick my butt up and down a football field. But actually, we'll get into some of this, and we'll get into some film later. But Coach has been coaching a long time, 6-man football, and I've learned quite a bit from him, and he's been always kind to answer questions that I've had, and so I'm glad that we got to have you on the podcast today.
It's a pleasure, Coach.
So tell me a little bit about, it's always nice to know as a coach your backstory, how much of what got you into coaching or teaching or brought you to where you are now, and how you found your path to Bulvarde.
Really, what happened was, I went to school in Houston. I went to Houston Worthing High School. It's not in such a great area in Houston. Went to school there, played football there, and did pretty good with the football program over there. But I didn't take care of grades and got in a little bit of trouble here and there. And then I decided, once I really was trying to get my life right with Christ, what I would want to do was try to make a difference in kids' lives so that they would not go down the same road that I went down. So I eventually moved to El Paso, stayed there for about 28 years, 26, 27 years, somewhere around there.
Wow.
Got married. God put blinders on this lady, and so she couldn't see me, and she married me. We've been married now for about 30 years.
Awesome.
She encouraged me to go back to school, which I never would have done, because if you'd have known me as a young man, as a teenager, I hated school. I skipped school most of the time. And then for me to go back to school, it was a trip. But I did it, and with her encouraging me, finished school, and then I had given a request to God, and one of the things I'd asked him to do was to put me in a position where I could be a positive influence on kids, so that they don't go down the same road that I went down. And it really wasn't, as far as dealing with teaching in a school or coaching in a school or anything like that. It's just, in kids' lives. And then you have start teaching. Been in the education, I think, about 24 years now. Been coaching for about 23 years, and enjoying every minute of it.
That's awesome, Coach. Now, that's a long stint out there, out west. So tell me, you had to have played 11-man football. I'm guessing there weren't a whole lot of 6-man teams in the, where you grew up. So what was the transition like, and how'd you get into 6-man when you got out west?
When I got to El Paso and got in the field of education, I started off coaching middle school girls volleyball, basketball, and middle school girls track and field, and I was having a real blast. I was really enjoying it. And then my second year in coaching and teaching, they called me in and told me they needed me to help with a football program. And it was 6-man. I had never seen a 6-man game. No rules at all about 6-man. I knew how to teach kids how to hit, uh, how to catch the ball as far as those basic fundamentals, but not the game of six-man. So it took a little while. At this one school I worked at, Faith Christian Academy, I coached football there for about 4 years, I believe. And then I left there and I went to work at Jesus Chapel with I think one of the best six-man football coaches that I know of, and his name is Claude Helton. And working with Claude, I learned what six-man football was. He taught me a little bit on how to coach a little bit six-man. And I think I started with Claude in 1998. And matter of fact, the things we were doing back then, we're doing some of the same things still today, 2018, 2019.
Yeah, I would tell you that the fundamentals don't change all that much. I guess the game's moved a little bit. I don't know if you've seen this, Coach. That'd actually be a good input. I mean, from what I can tell, more and more teams seem to be moving toward spread type offenses. Spreading the field more, and that's true at the. It doesn't make a difference if it's 6A, 5A, a high school ball, college ball, all the way down to six-man. But I don't know. I mean, it just seems to be a trend. Have you seen that? Have you seen that over the last 2 decades?
Yeah, I've seen that. But the offense that we run, what you call a split T, I just call a pro T. Offense that we run, it's the same offense that we ran when I was working at Jesus Chapel. Same as at Chapel, we didn't do a whole lot of spread. And right now today it's the same. It's the same thing. We're doing the same stuff. Nothing's really changed that much. Only thing I've added to our offense is some of the things I picked up from Vance Jones, who's over at Balmaray right now.
Yeah.
I picked up some stuff from him from when he was at Sanderson. And we call it, in my offensive playbook, we call it the Sanderson Veer. And then I picked up some stuff from Coach Euland. He was over at Greenville Christian, and he's a really good friend of mine. Me and Coach Euland, we still talk at least 3-4 times a year. Then I picked up some stuff from Coach Jones over there in Garden City. So it's, some little things that we've added on to our offense, but our basic package is the same package that we used when I was at Jesus Chapel.
Yeah, that it's interesting to, I think I heard, I don't know which coach along the way, said it, and I kind of held on to that, which was, whatever it is, you need to have something that you can kind of run home to mama with. That it's in your program and it's kind of a staple. And when things aren't going quite the way that everybody can just circle around and do that. And you can experiment on the edges, but you need to have something that's kind of your identity, right? And I think it was Coach Jones I had that was talking about running that veer, sort of the triple option version he has, and he said, "Yeah, you don't date the veer, you got to marry it."
That's correct.
And I think if you have one of those offenses, and you've got that with that Pro T, that you can get real technical with, then and you can get your guys to buy into it from younger ages up. It can be very, very, and like you say, 20 years later, it's still as good as it was when you dusted it off, when you were using it 20 years ago. And that, I just see too many programs sometimes that I don't think they know what their identity. Sometimes you play them and they don't know what their identity is, right? And maybe you're doing when we're scouting with film, and those seem to be always for me easier to defense than the team that does 4 play. They're going to do 4 plays, but they do them so well it's hard to defense.
Right.
It's like I get it, those 4 plays, but we're having a heck of a time stopping that.
Yes, sir. I figure also that when I came out to this San Antonio area, most teams run a spread package like you were talking about. So since most teams run a split package, and then we come here and we're running a Pro T, it's something that most teams don't see a lot of.
Yeah.
So since you don't see a whole lot of it, it's kind of hard for you to practice it also.
Yeah.
To prepare for it.
To prepare, right. I tell you what was interesting. We went out and played Sterling City last year, and it was a wonderful game out there at Garden City at their Invitational. And after the game, the coaches gave us a really great compliment by saying, okay, it was a close game, a 2-point, 3-point game, something like that. But our base O'Brien, which is an old, throwback, right? I mean, really old throwback. But you don't see it anymore. And they said that was the hardest thing for them to prepare for, was the fact that you just don't see it. Our kids hadn't seen it before, and they had great athletes. I mean, just incredibly, and they did a bang up job causing us our own sets of fits, and we learned a lot from that. But that is one of those things that you when you have something that works well and people haven't seen, it certainly becomes harder defense. That's what we'll get to that when we get into the film, Coach, because we're going to show. I put in all those good plays where you torched us for 2 years. So,
I don't know about that.
Tell me a little bit about 20-something years out in one place is in a coaching world is almost unheard of, right? I mean, it's hard to in this line of work to stay in one place. But what did motivate you to move into the Central Texas area?
It's a couple of things. One thing, my wife had been taking care of my mother-in-law for 4 years. She had passed away, and I felt that she needed to change the scenery, just a change, period, of everything. And I was looking online on the TAPS website and saw on that site that Bracken Christian was looking for a coach. I contacted the AD, Terry Saunders, and sent an application. I waited a few weeks and didn't hear anything back, so I gave him a call, and she told me that the position was full. It was taken care of. And I told her thank you. I was looking at taking another position in El Paso, which made a whole lot more sense to me. Instead of moving, 8 hours, 9 hours away, I could just, stay in El Paso and just drive a little bit further. But then I just felt that it was, that was supposed to be my position over at Bracken. So anyway, a couple of weeks later, I checked back on the website and saw that the position was up again. And I contacted them. And they told me, yes, it was up. Would I still be interested? I said, yeah, I'd like to check it out, So they flew me out to see the place and see the kids during the school day. And then they offered me a contract. And I thought about it for a few days, and we renegotiated some things on the contract, and then they sent it back to me, and I signed it. And then they flew me and my wife out. And then my wife went out. Well, she thought she was just going out to check it out. She didn't know I'd already signed.
You're a braver man than I am.
So we looked around, and she told them, we'll think about it. And they looked at her kind of crazy. They didn't, I guess, she didn't know, but they didn't say anything, which was cool.
They had your back from the beginning. There you go.
Yeah, so she just found out about that this year, that I had already signed it when we went up there. But everything was cool, and she's happy that she likes the place.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a different place, and it's you were out there in that West Texas. West Texas is a different, style of football. I mean, it really is. I find it interesting. We were talking about that, but you still see a lot of ground and pound out there. You still see, that more of a balanced offensive approach. You see, at least what I've experienced playing more teams that we've been trying to schedule when we schedule out west. They're very aggressive on defense. They're going to more pin their ears back than, others. But and speaking of which, Coach, what is your philosophy on the defensive side of the ball? Where do you stand there?
I try to stay away from defense. I've had to do both before, and it's really kind of tough to focus on both,
Yeah.
and really be successful with it. So I have a defensive coordinator. His name is Levi Montgomery, and when I hired him, I think 2 years ago, he asked, I told him I needed him to take over the defense, and if he can handle the defense, and he can have the defense, period. And I would run the offense, and he would run the defense.
Well, there you go.
And that's how we've been doing it. He's been doing a great job with it. So I try to stay away from it as much as I can, because otherwise I want to put a lot of input on it. Once you get used to doing something for so long. So what I do to prevent that is, when we get ready to do something, defensively, I might stay out there for the drills or whatever if they need some help with that. But I have, about 2 or 3 other assistant coaches who's helping with that. But once we start scrimmage, and preparing our defense for a game, I would stay off the field or leave the field.
Oh, wow.
And I had to let my coach know I trust him and what he was doing. And if you need me, I'm available. But like I told him, I'm not going to micromanage. You said you can handle it. It's your defense.
Yeah. Well,
So we have an assistant coach to run the scout offense, and I would take care of other stuff during that time.
that's a blessing. It is nice to have to have those additional coaches. That's something that some of our programs like us, we're still we rely a lot on volunteers, so it comes and goes. But and it's always good to be able to trust somebody to get the job done, and they've done it.
Yes, sir.
So I mean, you've been having some great success there. What would you say that that in your estimation, moving to a new program, coming in, it's a good school, it's got great kids, you've got something to work with, obviously there. But what did you think that you needed to do when you got there that kind of made it your own, or feel for how you would like to see the program run? Is there anything in particular that sticks out?
The first thing that I did when I first got over there and met with the boys, the first thing was to make sure all of them were children of God. All of them accepted Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. And then we took it from there.
There you go.
Then we would go to start taking them to camp. It's called Camp Zephyr. It's up over there in Sandia, Texas. Mm-hmm. And we would go out there for 4 days, doing 2 days. And, work together. We had devotions, practice, and more devotions, and eat, and, and just form a brotherhood where everyone could see that, we're all on the same page, man. We're all children of God. We're all learning things, and we all make mistakes, and we just have to pick each other up and keep on fighting.
Yeah, no, and that is, I think, one of the great aspects of six-man football that I've found is the fact that regardless of whether it's charter or private or public or homeschool, the faith element that exists within the six-man community is strong. And
yes, sir, it is.
And I think more than I've heard people say, well, I would not go back to coaching 11 man. And for me, it's not that I wouldn't go back to coach. It's that I know I wouldn't leave the brotherhood of that and the kind of ability we have to bridge those gaps, regardless of those socioeconomic and the public versus private, that can be bridged with faith that we do in the six-man community. And that's kind of one of those things I think just, that's so. I mean, when people say, hey, would you go back? And no, because it's not so much the game as it is just the culture of the game. It's very different, and I love when we go to coaching clinics periodically, and it opens in prayer, closes in prayer. It's just a good brotherhood.
Yes, it is.
Now, through the years, I'm sure you've been blessed with some, teams that have lots of talents and teams that have had less talent, and ones that are somewhere in between. What is it that you look at and you try to focus on, regardless of your talent level, every season, that when you try to put together your team for the fall?
Consistency. I think that's the key thing, consistency. What we start off at the beginning of the beginning of two-a-days, drills, the way we open up, the way we start practice, the way we end practice, that starts from August 1st until the last game. We don't change anything. We might pick up pace on things, but as far as all of the basics and techniques that we start with at the beginning of the season, we continue it all the way to the last day. We don't change too much of routine. We want to stay consistent so the kids know what's going to happen. They know what to expect when they come to practice. They know how. I want them to start trying to think like a coach. Start thinking the way we think, where they know what's going to happen, what we expect from them, and they know what they expect from us. If we're not giving them everything, if it seems like something's going wrong, they'll pull us to the side and ask, "Hey, what's going on today?" Because they know how we run things.
No, that's a good word. One of the things that you mentioned about consistency, getting those players to buy in. I'm just curious from an offensive side, because it does differ from coordinator to coordinator. To what extent and how much do you give the reins to your field general? Some people that's the quarterback. Sometimes that's the spread back, or however you want to.
Well, how much what now?
How much reins? Like, do you let them audible? Do you let them play call, or do you?
No, sir.
Yeah.
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir. I don't want them thinking.
Just execute.
Yes, sir. So, no, sir. If there's any type of change is going to be made, I'll make the change. I'll make the change from the sideline.
And now in terms of when you're, do you try to get? It's obviously everybody's goal, but if you have the ability to have guys that play both ways, you try to limit that, or is that something that, if I'm going to put the 6 best athletes on the field and just push them as hard as I can, and then spell them periodically? What's kind of your thought process?
We'll try to. If we, it doesn't happen a lot, Coach, but I'm going to have a lot of guys get on the field. Last year, I think we played maybe 9 guys, a whole lot. The year before that, we played maybe 8 guys, a whole lot. You mentioned earlier that, some years you have a lot of good talent, and then some years you don't have, a lot of good talent. Well, I haven't had a lot of years where we had a whole lot of good talent. I'm being honest with you, I've had some years where we had some kids like this past year. I had 3 or 4 kids who never played 6-man football, who made All-State this year. As a matter of fact, I had one, he never played football before. So it's not like I've had a whole lot of talent. And that's why we have to stay consistent. Because a lot of kids don't watch football. They don't know football. So you have to teach them, A plus B equals C.
Yeah.
And you just hope nothing happens in between A and B.
Yeah, no, I've got 3 or 4 every year that's usually the case, that they've never, never played. And I think I got my first one that had never even seen a football game. That was new for me. Last year was the first time and what was interesting, and you obviously sounds like you've had these kids, but what are you doing? What possessed you to come out here to play football if you don't even, you kind of what's the thought process there?
well, remember, as far as I learned a few years ago, as far as dealing with some of the kids that are not out there for football.
Yeah.
Some of them, out there to be part of a team, to be part of a family. Mentioned that I had a kid years ago. His name was Vernon, and he was on the team, and Vernon couldn't catch. Vernon didn't know how to run. Vernon was scared to hit or get hit. And I tried to run him off the team as far as doing 2 days. I tried to run. I ran those guys so many hills it was pathetic. Trying to get him to go home, and stay home. But he didn't. He came back every day. At the end of the season, I found out why Vernon was on the team. One morning, I got a call from the principal, the superintendent. Asked me to go by, the hospital, had an Army hospital in El Paso. Would I go by there because Vernon's mom got ran over by a car and was killed. I went over there and met him and his grandma, and come to find out that his mom was, she was a drug addict on drugs and stuff, and Vernon wasn't really living with her. He was living with his grandma, and she was raising him. Me and the football players, we went to the viewing of the mom to show support to Vernon, and we noticed that even the day that his mom got killed, Vernon came to school that day. Matter of fact, Vernon was at school all week. We went to the viewing. After the viewing, the day of the viewing, Vernon was at school. The day of the funeral, after the funeral, I went by the school, and we had parents who had brought a lot of food for me to take over to Vernon's house. And I took the food over and talked to some of his relatives, and then I found the grandma and asked where was Vernon at, and she said, the family car dropped him off at school. He wanted to go back to school. He didn't want to come over here. Found out that with Vernon's grandma raising him, the rest of the family, they pushed him to the curb. They didn't think that the grandma should have been raising him, that was mom's responsibility. So no one in their family had anything to do with him. So come to find out, we were his family. And the reason why that he was there at the school on the football team, because God knew that he was going to need somebody who was going to be there with him and to support him. And we were the ones who were there for him. So sometimes you have kids who are out there on your team, and they're not out there for football.
Yeah.
That there are other reasons that they're out there for, and sometimes you find out the reason, and sometimes you don't.
Yeah, no, that's a great story and a great way to end this session, Coach. So I truly appreciate you taking the time. So those of you that are on the SoundCloud, this will be where we part ways. This is where the audio portion we now get over, and we'll be talking with Coach and going through. As Coach just pointed out, he's an offensive coach, and so we'll be going through the offense. I won't make him have to break down his own defense that he doesn't stay around for practice on.
That's correct.
So, so those of you that can, this will continue on YouTube after the break. I've been always told to please share, like. We're trying to build our audience, trying to build that six-man family. We strongly encourage you, if you know somebody that could be a part of our programming, we'd ask you to please email their name. 6is1.com is where you can go to find out more information about us and get on our list for future episodes. So stay tuned. We'll be with you after the break. Welcome back to the second half of our segment with Coach Stredic of Bulvarde Bracken. This is the point where we go through some film. And so, Coach, how you doing?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, Coach doesn't have the opportunity. Sometimes I ask coaches to send the film, and they get to choose the plays. And sometimes I have film because we've played in the past, or I find it somewhere and I get to surprise them. So Coach is part of the get to be surprised group here. So, but what I've asked Coach to do is and I reached out to Coach Stredic about, I may have been 2 years ago or last year, I can't even remember, because after 2 years of facing his wing T and having taken over our varsity, I said, I like the formation. I like the tight. I like some of the ways that it makes it difficult. I always look at coach. I look at things as if I had problems defensing it, then that gives me more incentive to want to offensively go against, to incorporate it. And so I think it was, it was after so it was before last season. I reached out to coach and said, give me some pointers here, because this is something we'd like to do. And so we incorporate. We'd had a problem, coach, with getting in from 5-yard line in, 7-yard line in.
Okay.
And part of that was a size issue. We didn't have weight room. We weren't big, fast. We were going up against some teams that were fine. That speed factor gets negated a lot when you get down closer to the goal line. Right, you're not throwing it over the top, or you're not spreading it out. So what we decided to do was a lot of the sort of the misdirection, the blocking assignments we liked, and so let's kind of go through some of that and what you're trying to achieve. And really what we're trying to get through is I look at this as more of a coaching, what are we coaching at the different aspects. So this play here is just your standard sweep. Now, so the coach, this is going to be a sweep coming at us. We've got a sweep coming at us, and we have basically a 4-man front. Your tackle on this side or guard, I should say, on this side is going to block down.
Correct.
With this end coming in, walk me through. At this point, what do you tell the Q? Do you tell him you're going to take a step down the line? This young man, and I know this is week 1, and we always hate to look at week 1 film, all of us, but is he supposed to take a step back, or is this?
Yes, sir. He's going to take a step back and let the other running back on the strong side there. He's going to come up and get that in.
Okay, so he'll come up and get the in. So his job is to get to.
That's correct. And the quarterback will come around him, and he'll get that safety or that cornerback that's back there
on this side, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. Now, the question would be: is that quarterback going to read where the block is? Where do you tell this guy, the blocking back here that's going to block the end?
The blocking back is he wants to hit that end's outside shoulder and turn him inside.
Okay, so that is that you're going to try to get him inside.
But you see, he didn't do that.
Yeah.
He took him straight down to where the guy's running the ball.
Yep. And then you're outside here.
Correct.
And now you're already at second level. That guy's already looking to make his play on the. And there you go. Okay. Now let me get to the next. So we got a sweep, but we got the sweep going the other way. So same concept again. We'll slow it down. No, I guess it's same direction. Here we go. Same direction. All right. Again, end's getting aggressive end. This kid, I know this kid. He obviously one of my kids. Comes up. He finally does his job, which is to set his edge.
Correct.
So I guess that's probably because that other clip was from earlier, and he has only half. What he does is only half his butt left right now from those previous plays.
Right.
This kid was a freshman. So so you're going to go in, and now that time that the Q is going to come up into the hole. Right.
Correct. If he goes through the hole, we want that running back with the ball to follow him. He's going to follow it blocked. But he's a pretty good running back. If he see that he needs to bounce it back outside, he's smart enough to do that.
Right. There we go. Now on the back side, which is actually a little bit more. I'm guessing that somebody's just not blocking the right.
That's correct. I see two guys
blocking one person. That doesn't happen in 6.
Well, what you're looking at there in that particular play is, can you back that up again?
Yeah.
Go ahead, run it now.
Yeah.
Okay. What you got there is you got you got two sophomores on that line. Who's matter of fact in the center who's there. He's trying to learn that position. He's really not a center. Probably the shortest center I ever had.
Yeah.
And he's trying to learn his job. The other guys, I don't know, he just lost up there.
Yeah. Yeah. So somebody's supposed to be getting to the second level and getting this backside.
Correct. And then you got to understand, I think that was my second year at Bracken, and they were still learning a new system.
Right.
This offense that we're running, matter of fact, Coach, if you think about most of the teams that you played in the last few years, you don't play too many teams that run this particular offense, this particular set. You call it a wing T. I just call it a pro T.
Pro T.
Yeah, I call it a pro T. And you don't have too many teams out in the Southwest out here who run this offense, who run this particular set. So these kids are still learning this offense, getting comfortable with it, so they can get comfortable with themselves, what their responsibilities are.
Right. Now this is the play to the same play to the other side. So I mean, now the cue always opens up toward the side that he's going to go. You never reverse him so that he's.
I used to. I do both, Coach. I used to primarily he would open up the opposite way.
Yeah.
Now we switch it up a little bit with what sometimes it's depending on who we're playing. We might open up to the opposite side, or we might open it up to the side we're going to run to.
Okay, so you will switch it up and.
Oh yeah, it's depending on who we're playing.
Yeah. Again, he takes, what I found interesting is he takes a pretty deep step to kind of loop around. But what's the thought process there? Not to get caught up in the wash at the line of scrimmage, or what's?
That's correct.
Okay. This kid here is but this is play side. Do you always want to try to go into the play side?
No, sir. One thing that I don't teach a lot of, Coach, is you call it cut and chop blocks.
Yeah.
I don't teach that. I try to stay away from that. Those are just bad habits. I won't say a bad habit, but a habit that he brought on from previous years.
Yeah.
I don't. I might work on chop block maybe twice a year. I teach kids to make contact and turn their bodies. I don't have to try to control the defensive player. All I have to do is control my body. And that was just something that we had to work into from this particular year that you're looking at right now. If you watch the game this past year, you'll see a totally different blocking scheme where they finally caught on what we were trying to teach on make contact and turn your body. Don't worry about trying to control the other player. Right.
Yeah, I would say that we're my problem in six-man with cutting at the line of scrimmage is that it's not as effective, and B, you take away your opportunity to get a second block. Often
I try to stay away from it more from the injuries.
Yeah.
A lot of kids, you top block kids, and a lot of times you hurt kids. Kids get problems with the knees and those type of things. And that's why I try to keep kids away from going on at people's knees.
Yeah, the only time I've ever had an exception to that is when we've got a kid really big, blowing really fast, and I've got a 145-pound guard or something, and there's just nothing he can do up top, against it. And then I'll just say, we call it Superman. And at that point, we're aiming for thighs, not knees, and just make him come over. If he's going to run you over, at least let him run you over, and make it an obstacle.
Right.
Don't let him pick you up and throw you into the backfield. Right. I need you to be somewhere near the line of scrimmage when you land.
Right.
My kids always look at me like, Coach, that didn't sound like I'm winning that battle. I didn't say you're going to win the battle. I just said that I want to have control. Like you said, Coach. Right? Let's control what we can control. I want you to control the fact that when you're on the ground, it's somewhere near the line of scrimmage.
Yes, sir. Well, a lot of times if we're playing against they have a real big guy on the line, 250, 260 on that line. A lot of times we won't even block him.
Yeah.
because I feel that if my running backs are that slow and can't get outside that guy, they shouldn't be back there. They shouldn't be on the football field.
So true. Yeah. There's a lot of we sometimes prudence is the better part of valor, right? So and that guy's that big. Yeah, that's why I kind of say we're just gonna kind of slow him down a little bit.
Right.
So now on this one, this is I guess what we have. Oh, this is that reverse play. So you're going to be reversing this end over here, Coach. And I know this is a setup play because you've run to the right several times and then you bring this end back around to this side. So give me a little bit of what.
I must have noticed your right end.
Yeah, this kid playing too aggressive.
Yeah, I'm playing too aggressive. What I call cheating.
Yeah, he was, and he always had been. Yeah, I mean,
If I see him cheating, I'll do something like that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's and actually this is one of the few times he
didn't cheat.
He didn't cheat, and he just didn't make an athletic play. I mean, athletic kid, and he actually did it right. I mean, he's reading.
Correct.
I would tell you he's a little too deep. That's his. That's his. We're not gonna. But yep. And then once he gets around, we're not looking at that one. For without a doubt. Now this one here is this is a dive play. Now I found this interesting, Coach. You kind of it's not a jaybird. It's not a pro T exactly. I mean, this kid's cheated up a little.
It's supposed to be a pro T.
Oh, okay. All right. This is just one of
this guy. This guy over here on the right. Yeah, that one right there.
Yeah.
He is not where he's supposed to be.
He's supposed to be 3 yards back.
Yes, sir. That's supposed to be even.
Yeah, they're supposed to be even. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Again, week one. That's what you get with week one. Because it is a dive play. Now it's a lead dive. You're going to lead this kid through. So the thought process here: you kick the end out. You get through to the linebacker, but I guess my question would be, well, how do you handle when you're in a 4-2 a guy that's playing that gap? Is he gonna take care in the center? Supposed to block everybody?
What we want to try to do is we're going to block it the same way we would a sweep.
Okay.
So there's the one that's going to block there. Now you have that end. I mean, this guard or whatever you want to call it, the defensive tackle there. You have him playing head up with my.
Well, he's supposed to be in the gap, but yeah, he's head up.
Right. So he's going to make a choice on which way he's going to block it. And this other guy who's leading the lead block, he'll read off him on who he's going to take care of.
Right. Yeah, so they kick that there.
What I call this, you call it a dive. I call it a power because I have a lead block going in front of him. So I call that a power. So if you can run that back.
Yeah, here's your lead blocker.
So what we're looking at is my end should take your gap guy. That's correct.
Yeah.
And that's correct. That's how it should be.
Yeah. And then you have the and then this, you're trying to get to the second level, make an athletic move, and go.
That's correct. And we get 5 yards out of it, we're good with that.
Yeah. Which is what more than happens. So, and the same. Okay, now this is you're passing out of this. Again, now the backs. So just so I know, when you're, because throughout this, these guys have been different distances. What is the distance that you put, between? Let me get that.
The ends in the center.
Yeah, well, actually, the backs in the backfield.
The backs in the line of scrimmage is going to be with these guys here. It's going to be 3 yards.
Okay. Yeah, and that's interesting because that's what we've emulated. Because I saw more is, other people I've seen run something somewhat similar. Those backs are 5-6 yards back.
Yeah, I've seen that. I used to have them 4 yards back, Coach, and I went to a clinic, and I don't remember who was talking, but I do remember them saying that they try to have their running backs at the line of scrimmage in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So I moved my guys up a little bit, and cut it from 4 to 3 yards. And we want to hit the gap wherever we're going. Whoever has the ball, I want them at that line in 2 seconds. That was the reason for moving them up.
Yeah, and I would agree with you. We emulate that. I think having some team speed helps that. That certainly is the. I found the faster these guys are, the more effective this can often be, just because they can get to those blocks faster.
Right.
Trying to catch that in before he gets any kind of real deep penetration or. This is just another dive play. Let's see how they block it now. There we go. We're going to dive to the right here, I believe. Yeah. No, this is the pass. That's right. This is a scatter. I called it a scatter. It's just basically you're replacing the ends are both going out. And my guess is these are all quick bang bang routes here. Yeah. And then these guys are coming up to replace them as blockers.
That's correct. That's correct.
And so now, what is the? I mean, he is this young man, and he in this game again, week 1, you don't have any film. I would have said, look, don't even worry about the guy on the left. He's always throwing the guy on the right, because that's what he did. And then this kid was a great athlete. If he's covered up, what is it throw the ball to grandma? Is that the call at that point, or what is the?
He's gonna holler fire if those guys are not open, those ends are not open. What you're looking at is my left end. Mm-hmm. He couldn't catch the ball real well, if at all, and that's why he was always looking to the right to throw the ball to this guy over here.
Yeah.
But if he wasn't open, he would holler fire, and then everybody else on the team know that means to get open.
Just jailbreak. Yeah. That's
correct. I just throw the ball away.
Yeah. And I'm guessing if you see, people playing too deep, you're gonna, and again, you've got a size. I would, sizable size disadvantage there. That kid's a sophomore. I actually enjoyed watching your film, Coach, because I had both these guys over at my house this week, and because I was getting prepared, and I was telling them, look how bad you were. I was like, just trying to remind you that you guys, and they were like, "Oh, Coach, that's not fair. You can't go back to our sophomore film." I'm like, "Yeah, I can. I'm a coach. I can do whatever I want."
That's fair.
Let's look at and this is the dive with the pass on it. So get you guys the line of scrimmage a little bit faster. All right, so this is a setup play. Obviously, the dive's been, and this is, or I guess you call it power because you're lead blocking through it. So you fake the power.
Right.
My end not doing his job. Otherwise, he shouldn't have all day long right there. And then the throw. Now that's a throw you would have thrown to grandma.
That's correct.
That's one that you'd have said, hey, when he's double. First of all, we're double covered. I don't even know how we got double coverage because we shouldn't. But that's one that doesn't get thrown.
Right.
But hey, out of all those plays, I get on a 4th and 1. I get we got a turnover right there, so I get one good play, Coach. There you go. Didn't even notice that.
You guys really tough, that guy.
Let's see. I have one other, Coach. Let me get through this and figure out how to get to. Because I thought this was an interesting. Let's open this up. It wasn't this play. This is just your sweep play again. I had one. Yeah, I get that. So this is, this is for your first year there, I guess, because this has been almost 4 years ago.
Oh yeah, this over at your place.
Yeah. So, I'm a defensive guy, and I was doing junior high, so
Oh,
this would not be our defense against that
okay.
offense. But it is. Um, so you block the end. I don't know if how many people would put a 2-man front against a tight package, but we did, I guess. Um, so here you're going to send this guy out I would think, to get to this linebacker.
Correct.
I mean, well, actually, maybe not. Or is he
That's
supposed to
what he
get
should be.
Is he?
Yes,
And this guy's still going to try to hook the end if
that's correct.
he's going to try to hook the end there if he can, since they're head up.
Right.
If this guy is split out, then does that guy go to the linebacker and the power back gets him?
It's going to really be from film, coach watching film.
Yeah.
Would that guy normally step in that gap?
Yeah.
Would he stay back and try to read? Yeah, if he stayed back and try to read, no, we'd have our way in to take your end out and try to take him out of bounds.
Okay.
Let that lead running back take care of that cornerback.
I got you. Okay. Well, again, that's interesting. I'll have to show that young man. He's a freshman that year. So a number of those sophomores were freshmen that year.
Right.
We started 3 freshmen that year. It's we were talking. It just goes in cycles. That's actually a good question for you, Coach. What's your thought process on who plays on game day? Is it what is just what is it? Those that are. Does age make a factor? Does
No, sir. Age don't make a factor. Kids who come out and put in the sweat, and kids we know we can count on. Kids who we know they're not scared of injury. They're going to help the team on that particular day. We're going to put them in. But one thing I do let every parent know: we have a parent meeting the first day of practice, and in that meeting, I let every parent know that your kid is not promised 1 second of playing time. Regardless of who we're playing, where we're playing, what the score is, what the score isn't, they're not guaranteed. So we can be in a game, Coach, and we might be winning by 4 or 5 touchdowns, and we're in the fourth quarter with maybe 2 minutes left. That doesn't mean everyone is going to play.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you play kids who are not ready as far as trying to kind of timid or scared or whatever, and you put them in the game, and you could be playing against a team that they have some kids who they know they've lost the game, so they go after certain kids.
Yeah.
So you got to protect them.
No, I agree. I've learned that this last season was a good example for us. We just were fortunate enough to get a lot of games over with quick, and people would ask me why is the game over at halftime, right? And why I didn't play more of the depth. But part of it is, well, I got to get reps for the guys, and if all I'm going to get is 2 quarters, then I'm going to get 2 quarters. They need reps. And then the other part of it is, when your son can contribute in a way that's not going to get other players hurt as well.
Correct.
It's not just that your child needs to play. It's the fact that I'm making sure that everybody on that field, and if your son has not figured out how to run the scheme or do anything, I don't need a warm body out there getting other people hurt.
That is correct.
And trust me, he's going to feel really bad when he's the reason that, or contributes to, I won't say the reason, but contributes to a play that should never have taken place simply because he was, doing the wrong thing at the wrong time and that's on me as a coach because I put him out there and he wasn't ready.
That's correct.
And so I'm not going to make that mistake. That's usually the way. So now this is your I cross. I don't know what you call this, Coach.
It look like what I call a counter. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, it's the counter play.
Look like a counter left.
Mm-hmm. Now you're going to pull the center across to the.
Yes. He's supposed to pull it in and go get somebody. You're running a 2-2.
Yeah.
So we're gonna run that back.
Yeah.
So he should have taken the gap guy and that end.
Yeah.
So they ended up blocking the same guy because we weren't ready for that 2-2 for that particular thing.
Yeah. Again, week 1, no film, hadn't seen anything.
Right.
But yeah, I would more than likely if that end's going to stay outside, then he might take a step that way and then head up to the linebacker.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Because your linebackers, both of your linebackers, they're not coming up at all.
Yeah.
Look like they're waiting for a pass.
Yeah. Yeah. That kid makes an athletic play. Same thing, I believe. Let's see what we got here. Now this was interesting. I hadn't seen this play until I went back through film. This is an option. So it's a fake. Is that a read, coach, or is that?
A read. It's
okay.
a read.
Okay.
What he's reading right now, he's reading that end, and then he's reading that linebacker.
Right.
Now you see that the end was taken, then that's why he went ahead and pitched it all out there.
Yeah.
Now, if you run that back,
yeah,
he could have given the ball to the. You call it an option. I call it we call this. We have simple calls, coach. We have very simple calls. We don't have all those numbers and stuff unless it's a pass. We run sweep left, sweep right, power left, power right. This here is called dive left, sweep left. So he's supposed to be reading that in. So what I probably would have done if I was him is give the ball to that dive guy, that guy right there.
Yeah.
And let him bounce it to the right.
Yeah, because you got the linebacker in no man's land, not committed to anything. Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's what I would. I just thought that was interesting, and that end is not an athletic. It was one of those things where he's not as athletic enough he wouldn't have been able to make that play unless
right.
We didn't have quite the athletes that year that.
You had a couple of pretty good athletes out there, Coach.
Yeah.
You had some big kids out there. I remember spread back you had back there.
Yeah, that was the one kid. That was the pro football players. Colley's oldest son. We pretty much rode him. That's that kid.
Yeah.
But interestingly, like anything else, offensively just a brute to try to take down. Defensively, just doesn't have the footwork to. And like you said, you could have just given that dive and gone right past him.
Right.
And a lot of people did that season. But he's. It's harder sometimes when you're that big, kind of moving into the. It's just difficult sometimes when you're that big to get the quick feet that you need for this game. So, well, that's what we've got with Coach for film. Thanks for taking the time, Coach. Truly appreciate it.
No problem at all.
I'm looking forward to following you this season and seeing how y'all fare, and I know you'll do well because you, like you said, you got a process now in place, and young guys that have obviously are buying into it and have grown up in it a little bit more. It's always easier when that's the case. Now, are you going to have a JV team this year, Coach?
I don't know, Coach. We'll know after August 1st.
All right. Well, I may have to reach out to you and see if you're able. Do you field one last year?
Yeah, we played 2 or 3 JV games last year.
I'll have to reach out to you if you're able to field.
Right now, I do have two JV games scheduled.
Okay, well, I'll have to get with you offline about seeing if you have another week open. I'm trying to fill one for. We're going to have a JV for the first time, Coach. So that's new for us.
Yes, sir.
I'm really looking forward to that. Giving those guys those opportunities to play and get some experience.
That's correct.
I just. We tried last year and just didn't have the numbers, and we had one young man get hurt, and so we didn't have the numbers after that.
Right.
So we're blessed this year to have a number of folks come in. So in the spring, and it was sizable enough. I thought, well, let's go ahead and throw some games out there. So all right, we'll get with you about that. So
Sounds good.
at this point, that's it for the YouTube portion of this and the film portion. We would appreciate it if you would share and like and help us build the audience. We would truly appreciate that. You can always catch us at sixes1.com. Go there and get on our mailing list, and so anytime there's a new episode, then we will let you know. Our goal is to try to get one, if not two, of these out a week during the season. We'll see how that fares, because we all know it gets real crazy in the fall. So thanks again, Coach.
All right, you're welcome, bro.
And we will again, everybody have a blessed day, and thanks for your time.